So I'm Mette Walsted and I will be trying to host this session or moderate if you want. And I'll be coming up to you with a microphone whenever you want to ask a question. Yes, the more formal welcome I will leave up to you.
Thank you. It's a great privilege to welcome the EU Commissioner for Health and Food Safety, Vytenis Andriukaitis. We would like you to know that we are happy that you have decided to visit us here at University of Southern Denmark. Especially, we are glad that you are willing to engage in a dialogue with our guests and panel to discuss some very important issues relating to health and prevention. It is challenges that concern all of us across the EU member states. We would also like to welcome Regional Councillor and member of the European Committee of Regions, Karsten and Petersen, as well as our other guests here at the meeting. We are very pleased that there are so many participants in this dialogue meeting. A major study known as the Health Profile was prepared by the National Institute of Public Health at the University of Southern Denmark, the Danish regions and the Danish health authorities, and was published 1.5 weeks ago. The study documents in black and white that the health and well-being of Danes has unfortunately got worse. Among other things, the study shows that there are more young people who are not thriving and that many citizens are in poor physical health, many of whom are suffering from long-term illnesses. It also shows that over half of the Danes are now overweight, and that unfortunately there is a trend of more young people starting to smoke. This is a regrettable trend that cannot only be documented here in Denmark, but unfortunately one that we also share with other countries in the European community to a greater or lesser extent. These days, it is not enough for us only to look at health within a national framework. We live in a global world where we share the same challenges, but where together we can also find solutions to some of the current health issues we are facing and which we are looking into. This includes this increase in obesity, more and more chronic patients, and an aging population. Research within the fields of health and prevention are highly in focus at University of Southern Denmark. We work in close collaboration with the region of Southern Denmark in relation to research and cooperation projects with an emphasis on prevention efforts, among other things. Fortunately, we are now living longer than previous generations, but we also have more citizens living with one or more chronic diseases, such as diabetes, COPD, and cardiovascular disease, where a prevention effort may have made a difference before the disease became chronic. Again, very welcome to this dialogue meeting, where together we will be able to discuss some important issues regarding health and prevention that concerns us all, whether we are citizens, we are relatives, public authorities, researchers, doctors, officials, or politicians. Last but not least, I would like to welcome you, Mette Walsted, our moderator for the day. And now the floor is all yours.
Thank you. So, what I want you to do first, before I bring our panel up here, is to bring out your cell phone, mobile phone, sorry, and get the app Slido if you don't already have it. And we have a test question just for you to check if you actually know how to operate this. What is your favorite sport? Just enter your reply. This is just a test question. We're not going to use that for anything else. And just check out if you got hold of the app. And as soon as we get the answers, as you see, a word cloud will appear here. That will give us a sense of what the questions are. And this is how we're going to get some of the input for the dialogue today. But as I mentioned earlier, I certainly hope that I'm going to get the chance to run around with the microphone so I get your questions as well. But we will have a few questions. We have a few questions prepared for you on the Slido. As you see, some of the words here get bigger. That's because a lot of people said that they'd like to ski and ride their bicycle and run, whoever can understand that. So let's invite our panel up here. Mr. Commissioner Andriukaitis, welcome. Let's join me in welcome him warmly up here.
Hello.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
Hello.
We have with us also Karsten Petersen, who's the Regional Councillor for Southern Denmark and also a member of the Committee of the Regions, which is why he knows the Commissioner quite well, I understand. Well, let's welcome Mr. Petersen up here as well. And lastly, we have Karen Søgaard, a professor from Syddansk Universitet. Karen, join us, please. All right, so let's try out the first question for today. So we'll start out with some input from the audience, Mr. Commissioner. What do you expect will be the greatest health challenge 25 years from now? So enter your answer to that on the Slido, and we'll get a reaction to that from our panel right in a second. So let's see. What do you think? Stress, obesity, elder care, inactivity, cancer, chronic disease. Very interesting. I was hoping somebody would say this because these are some of the topics that I myself prepared to ask the Commissioner about. Lifestyle, aging population, too few caregivers. Very interesting. Non-communicable diseases. Oh, psychiatric related. Occupational health, too few caregivers. Can you see these? So I'd like to give you, Commissioner, the chance to react to all these answers and maybe to give us your own answer. What will be the greatest health challenge 25 years from now?
Excellent, excellent. Speaking about all common pictures, very well designed pictures. Thank you very much. But main challenge is aging population, but with multi-morbidity. Aging population with multi-morbidity, friends. Why? Because it will be good, it will not challenge to have a healthy aging population with less morbidity. Why? Because then we do not need to spend a lot of money treating people. And of course, health care systems, they have huge challenge today now because they are facing a lot of difficulties, high-cost treatment, multimorbidity, lack of effective medicines, access to treatment. But if we are blind on prevention, promotion, protection, and participation in those issues, then we will change. We have no time to change situation. We will face difficulty with multi-morbidity phenomenon, and of course demographic crisis. It is big challenge for all of us. But let's stop here. Only sending signal about aging population with multi-morbidity. Maybe you are against.
No, I'm not especially against, but I would like to say that if we want a healthy aging population, we need to look at things in a lifespan perspective, because you build up to the healthy aging by looking into a healthy lifespan. And my focus area would be muscle and joint health. And I point particularly at that because we know it's so closely related to your workability, your ability to actually sustain yourself economically, and to having a content in your life, which is also related to your mental health. And muscle and joint are just so fundamental for living the physically active life, to actually prevent all the other lifestyle diseases or non-communicable diseases. You need your muscles to exercise your heart. So cardiovascular diseases are just, I mean, it's much easier to live the physical life if you have a healthy muscle and joint system. You can exercise without it or modify exercise, but it's so much easier to put it into your daily life if you have a good muscle and joint health. So that would be my focus related to a lot of the other problems.
So we cannot come up with a solution to those other problems if we cannot move because we have muscle and joint problems.
Yeah.
All right, very interesting point. Karsten, what is your answer? What did you write on your Slido? What do you expect will be the greatest health challenge 25 years from now?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to thank you for the invitation, but also thanks to Bjarne because he called me an expert, and I'm just a politician. But thank you for that. I think that the main issue is, in fact, departed. It is the growing elderly population, which made a lot of challenges for the health system, for the hospitals, but it's also connected to the chronic diseases. I think those are the two, and chronic diseases I think has a connection to our lifestyle. As you know, we eat too much, too fat, drink too much alcohol. Obesity is a very big problem, and the motion we do is not so big as it should be. So I think that's the main questions, and they will grow up.
As you can see, obesity is definitely the reply that that most people in here have given. What role can EU play in preventing obesity?
What role can we play all together? Because, you know, where is today European capital? In Brussels?
Sometimes.
No. You know, I take this tie. It's because today is Bulgaria presidency country. Bulgaria is today, Sofia today is president country. And my question is to Sofia, are you ready to address issues related to obesity? And they answer yes, we are ready to organize panel discussions, conference and debate speaking about children obesity, because children obesity is very challenging trend which is ongoing. And now we decided to invite the health ministers, Minister of Education, different actors to discuss the issues. How can we address children obesity? Because it's such trend is from small days. And of course, it is my question generally. What does it mean health? How can you explain to me? How can you define health? Who can help me? How can you define what does it mean health? Let's tell me.
Well, the definition of health could be your own perception of your ability to function.
It's more or less generally fine, fine. Who can be more precise?
We have a whole table of very smart people here.
I would like to provoke a little bit all of us, because with it I need to understand situation. Okay, if I may, I will draw your attention on definition of health, which is enshrined in WHO Constitution, and now is constant. Health is social, physical, and mental well-being, and not merely disease or infirmities. It's about social, physical, mental well-being. It's about what just you mentioned, about its possibilities to understand that health is multi-sectorial issue, needs to have all actors on board, needs in changes of paradigm in society. When I'm speaking about prevention or promotion or protection of health, I'm speaking a lot about different sectors, but because health is outside of healthcare and care systems, it's outside. Healthcare and care systems is dedicated to disease, to treatment, to your different disorders and so on. But we are speaking about health. I am commissioner for health, not for diseases. It means that I will act together with all actors, and it is very difficult, to encourage all sectors and all actors be responsible to address determinants in health, commercial determinants, political determinants, behavioral determinants, environmental determinants, social determinants, and without possibilities to encourage society to understand that we are speaking about very serious matter, we have no chance to address alone. And in Sofia, now we will discuss those multi-sectorial issues, asking all actors to be on board and to play their game. Otherwise, we have no chance to change situation.
So can you give an example? Like what do you encourage them to do concretely?
First of all, we will encourage governments, parliaments, society, NGOs, actors to understand that we need to improve scientific-based instruments into our real life. Speaking about taxation, marketing, advertising, education, speaking about possibilities to provide some regulatory framework, reducing risk factors around us. Can you imagine how it's difficult to change behavior of children if they grew in an environment where parents are smoking? After 7 years, you have no chance to change behavioral determinants. We need to do more using those instruments because science has a lot of shelves of books, of instruments, advising society to use those scientific-based instruments in real life, changing our situation. Otherwise, we have picture. Now, we have every year 1.5 million people in EU die because of premature death. Amenable and avoidable death. Can you imagine? Multi-morbidity society, aging, a lot of amenable and avoidable death every year, 1.5 million, no headings, no headlines, no messages, and demographic decline. And European Union is shrinking continent. And of course, this is generally we see demographic crisis. But can we change situation alone being medical doctors or universities? No. We can encourage societies to do more. Cities, regions, states, and EU.
So I note that you talk about the different tools, for example, taxation. So this audience think that obesity is one of the greatest health challenges in Europe these years. So does that mean you would encourage the member countries to put higher taxes on fattening foods, or another risk is smoking, so higher taxes on cigarettes? And do you encourage that?
You know, taxation is always unpopular, very unpopular.
Well, you named it.
You know, but I would like to tell you, Denmark decided to introduce sugar tax. Mm-hmm. It was okay, but they did it alone, and they look around, not around neighboring countries. Decided not to follow this, and Denmark then saw a lot of difficulties from economic point of view. It means that we need to discuss those issues in all 28 member states. Yes. So seeing possibilities to really to reduce use of sugary drinks and so on, using also taxation instruments. Second, speaking about tobacco, excise duties, it's the same issue. Speaking about alcohol, excise duty is the same thing. Now we are all here obliged, you and me, we all signed together to implement Sustainable Development Goals. Yes? And one of the Sustainable Development Goals is goal number 3, health and well-being. Oh, and in another hand, you see lack of money. I'm ready to discuss a little bit issues proposing a little bit higher levels of excise duties on alcohol, tobacco, and sugar, and then collect money to address issues related to prevention measures. Because generally, all member states dedicated only between 1.5 and 3% of public money addressing issues related to prevention. It's not enough. It's zero. It's a very lack of activities.
How much should it be?
Huh?
How much should it be?
How much should be? Frankly speaking, it will be about 8-11%. On prevention only. But speaking about all instruments which must be introduced in our society. But you know, it's politically very difficult. And then you can see commercial determinants. Please look, simple issue. You are, when you were in supermarket, yesterday, you saw where is tobacco placed on shelves. Not so far from cashiers. Why? Because it's very simple to go to supermarket, take tobacco, immediately pay, and go out. It means about access to buy tobacco. And why they are placing those tobacco on shelves not so far from cashiers? Because of profit. It means commercial determinants. If you touch those questions, okay, friends, can we regulate those issues in supermarkets, speaking about alcohol, tobacco, or not placing sugary drinks on level of eyes of children, or not? You will be immediately attacked.
How about prohibition of tobacco?
Well,
how about prohibition of tobacco, for example?
Prohibition. Such word is very complicated, you know. But
yes, I know.
It was not prohibited before Columbus discovered Americas, you know. Europe don't know nothing about tobacco. Only Columbus bring tobacco to us, you know. And that you know, it's very important to understand. It will be good to send back tobacco not to Americas, to Atlantic Ocean, you know, saying, okay, it's enough for us because tobacco is killing people. But frankly speaking, it will be good to introduce a regulatory tough framework. Speaking about tobacco-free environment, public spaces, excise duties, advertising, specialized stores, and so on, We should do more, and especially ratifying illicit trade protocol, which is a powerful tool fighting against smuggling and shadow economy related to tobacco issues.
Very interesting points of view, Commissioner. I will have Mr. Uno Petersen comment on that, and Søgaard as well in a moment. And then I'll encourage you guys to raise your hand, and I'll come down and let you ask your questions. Karsten Uno Petersen, yes. As a Danish politician from one of the regions where a lot of the Danish health policy is being operationalized and maybe even formulated. What do you think of what the Commissioner is saying here?
Who's in charge of your health? Is it the EU? Is it the state? Is it the region? Is it the government? No. You should manage your health by yourself. So what we say in the region of Southern Denmark, we have a vision. It is, you take care of your health, we take care of your illness. So I think that's a little bit of an answer of some of your questions. But concerning tobacco, I could tell you that some years ago I was in China and I had the luck to meet the Chinese Vice Minister for Health because he wanted to ask me about how can you reduce so successfully the smoking population in Denmark. I said, why are you interested in this? Because he said all men in China are smoking, but now the women are starting. That 3% of the women are smoking, but we can see an increasing percent. And he asked me, what should we do? I said, higher the price. And then he said, no. Oh, no, there'll be a revolution in China then. Then I can't help you. I think that if we should manage the smoking, which is a very big problem, and I think it's very big because in Denmark it's in fact now increasing a little bit among the young people. So we have to make partnerships to try to make understanding in a very low range of age for the young people. What is the consequences of smoking? And that's what we can do. And then we can do as they do in the big store called Magazine. They will not sell tobacco anymore. They stop today, and that's a start. The next is to put it away in the stores so you can't see it, and then lower the price. But then we have to talk about the other things, about alcohol, about obesity and so on, but I think we can come back to that. But I think that tobacco is a racing problem.
But is it okay for you as a Danish politician if the EU were to start regulate the prices or the way that we can sell these things, or just in the terms of prevention of very serious diseases?
As I have mentioned to the Commissioner and other commissioners very often, it is that health question is a state-level decision. Mm-hmm. But the EU can make frames about things, about taxation, about sugar regulations and so on, but only frames, and then it's up to the countries to decide.
But if I may, I will remember for all of us. Now we have in our hands excellent two tools. One global tool, Framework Tobacco Convention. Denmark signed such convention.
Yes.
And Denmark is obliged to ratify tobacco illicit trade protocol. Denmark is obliged to do it. I wish you the best achieving it. Second, we have tobacco product directive at EU level. And I was responsible at that time in 2013. I was chairman of European Health Council. I was responsible to finalize tobacco product directive. Oh, how it was important exercise in my life. I saw a lot of lobby against in European Parliament. Can you imagine how it was strong battle introducing tobacco product directive, and now Denmark is obliged to introduce, to translate directive in your real life. It's not only about people. Prevention is not only people job. If I am driving on the road, I see signs on the road. It's up to me to follow those signs or not. But first of all, I need to have a regulatory framework when I am driving. Speaking about public health issues, the same. We need to have a regulatory framework. And that framework is Tobacco Product Directive. And now we proposed delegated and implementing acts introducing tracking and tracing system on tobacco products. It will be operational in 2019. And once again, ask Denmark to be active introducing it. It's people at local level have no chance to introduce. And people at the regional level have no chance to introduce. People in your parliament have the chance to introduce. Let's ask those to be public health advocates. That's it about. And I think, of course, speaking about taxation issues, you know, European Union decided in 1992 to introduce minimum excise duties on tobacco and alcohol. But in alcohol, they decided to take exception. Wine and beer, zero duty. Wine and beer, zero duty. Why? I don't know why. But of course, because Tuborg may be the best beer in the world. Maybe, I don't know. But speaking about Tuborg, that's because, you know, when I'm touching beer questions, immediately can remember soldier Schweik, who said, don't touch beer prices, otherwise government will be collapsed. We know that very well. But of course, we need to discuss those issues openly. Taxation instruments are in hands of governments, parliaments. Not in the hands of regional authorities, no, absolutely. But we have tools. And we should move in such direction, otherwise we have no chance to address really issues related to figures. Figures show the younger generation started to once again to use tobacco products, especially electronic cigarettes. They're very attractive. And education is excellent tool, but education is tool which is used more or less 2,000 years. It's nothing new. And now we are educating our people, children, more than 2,000 years. And we need to have more effective instruments, not only about education. But public health instruments must be introduced also in solidarity way together, keeping on board our obligations related to Tobacco Products Convention.
So leaving the tobacco issue a little bit, but still talking about prevention, Professor Søgaard, what you do, it very much has to do with prevention of disease or postponing of aging and so on and so forth, as we heard before. What do you say to these thoughts that EU should play maybe a greater part in supporting and gathering the member countries in these terms?
Well, I would like to start somewhere else, saying that I don't really think that you can do the division about saying now you're healthy and then it is your own responsibility to do the prevention, while if you're sick and in the healthcare system, then it's our responsibility. Because for many of these kind of diseases, it's a little bit like on and off. Many workers actually cope with daily pain, but presenting at the workplace, doing their jobs, and not really presenting in the healthcare system. And I'm saying that because in Denmark, 80% of the grown-up population spend their time, half their waking time is spent on their workplace. So I do think that we have some structures where we can actually have a lot of possibility to influence people's work, and we have some responsibility of taking care of the employees that are there every day. And coming back to smoking, it didn't really take on in Denmark until it was regulated on all the workplaces where people actually were, and it was suddenly so difficult to actually find the place and room and time for going out and taking the cigarette. And then we actually saw a huge decrease in smokers. So we do have some evidence that we can actually use, and I think that we should look on the other side of the coin. Mm-hmm. It's not just about obesity and what you eat. It's actually also about physical activity and how you spend your day and spend your energy. Yeah. And again, the workplace could play a tremendous role in putting in the room and the possibilities for doing the physical activity that would benefit you. And it should be matched to the physical activity during work that is often not healthy, but rather deteriorating for your health. And these two things should be matched. And it's an excellent setting to actually take up these health issues.
I fully agree. You know, now we propose social pillar in which we enshrine work-life balance and healthy conditions at work and healthy living conditions. You remember? Mm. Now it's very important once again to draw attention on healthy workplaces, and of course not only including tobacco issues, but possibilities to have time to exercise. And of course, we need to understand physical activity is multi-sectorial issue. You need to have not only you, but you have a lot of specialists to provide how to exercise in more proper way. It is not so.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, then it is not enough to argue and inform and tell how preventive it is. If you're 18 years old, you don't consider that you can actually attain your workplace 3 years more when you're 65. So we need to draw on the physical exercise training that we know from sport and exercise, where we know how to motivate people. We have a lot of knowledge about the gaming, the playing, that has a motivation in itself, so that the health issue is actually just a positive side effect that you gain from being in this social environment, playing and being physically active together with others.
So
and
this,
again,
this is an area where you see the EU actually being able to play an important role in the terms of spreading this.
Yes.
We fortunately have a few people on the list for questions or reflections. Here's the first.
Yeah, my name is Kåre Christensen. I'm a medical doctor by training, working in health science here at SDU and with public health. And all the time, for the last 30 years, the topic that you are discussing has been the topic. It's basically the usual suspects, right? Obesity, exercise, smoking, and so on. And then we can discuss whether we're on a good track or on a bad track. And you referred, Commissioner, to the very ambitious WHO, that totally well-being, happiness, socially. And I think I never met a healthy person then, according to this definition. In epidemiology, we often have a more modest approach towards health, and the most concrete one is how long we live, which is, of course, a combination of your health and your surroundings. But that is looking real good in the EU. So we are on a good track in some, but I think that the main topic that should deserve much more discussion than the usual suspect is the diversity. Because we're in a situation where a fraction of the population getting healthier and healthier, monitoring every heartbeat and everything, optimizing. And then, so I see not the mean as a big problem. I actually think we're on a good track on average. What I see as the major challenge is that we are spreading out more and more. And so maybe the focus should be on how to reduce the disparity in these health habits. Also, we know from demography that those countries that have the smallest spread in life expectancy within the population are those countries doing best on average. So I would suggest focusing more on the differences in this.
So the inequality, so to speak.
Yeah, but that has certain flavor to it. So it's.
We're not talking about Piketty here, but.
You are absolutely right. First of all, speaking about definition. Of course, it's scientifically based definition, but it shows directions how to act. Speaking about possibilities to have healthy conditions, because healthy conditions at schools, who will be against? Healthy nutritional profile, who will be against? Life expectancy differs in Europe very much. In my country which I know the best, and here, difference it's about 8 years. And if you look in Central and Eastern European countries, as a whole, compare with Scandinavian countries, compare with Western Europe countries, you see a lot of difference. Why? Because of determinants, social. And of course, if you are looking into every country, we present the status of health. May you have opportunity to read our Commission report last year. Every country profile, speaking about health, Denmark, Lithuania, everything. You can see a lot of problems, but social determinants and differences, not only Michael Marmont presented very excellent study about determinants and differences, and especially speaking about socially less income people, their life expectancy is shortened. They have much more diseases. They are under big pressing of obesity and so on. Why? Because they are poor, less educated, and so on. And they use fast food and so on, so on. All determinants are known. It means that we need to be ambitious. Of course, we are going slowly in the right direction, but who will be against to say, okay, can we achieve our common results till 2020, prolonging life expectancy on 2 years in average? Now, we are far from this target. It means that we need to have more energy to address it, because it was obligation. It was obligations of all 28 member states. I am now responsible. So my job is to ask where we are. How can we move more active and to achieve something. Otherwise, always, Millennium Goals were signed. We are very keen to sign declarations. But yes, we achieved something, but not fully compared to our obligations. Now Sustainable Development Goals, once again, now European Union obligations to reduce disparities and to prolong. something is wrong. We need to warn, especially knowing from scientific point of view enough of scientific advices how to achieve those issues. It's not from the sky. And I will be more than happy to cooperate and to encourage. Okay, main trend, I agree with you, slowly goes into right direction. But my question is, can we do more achieving obligations which were signed?
But just to follow up, if this is true, that the spread out is a problem, does that mean that it would be a role for the EU to ensure that the member countries support the low-income groups more in their prevention and their investment in health?
You are right. By now in Göteborg was summit on social pillar, you know. Because now, if you look at today's picture on the ground in EU, a lot of people are angry about European Union project. A lot of people, they are voting. So some called populists. It's not about populism. It's about reality. If people see difficulties in their lives, they can ask those who are politicians. I don't know what does it mean to be a politician. I never was a politician. I was medical doctor, a historian, and active people. And I know that those people who are elected, they're elected to serve to people. Only 4 years, and then new elections, and that's all. But frankly speaking, if you see 150 million Europeans in poverty, they are unhappy after financial crisis, and they are angry. And of course they will vote on very radical ideas. And I see a lot of challenges in Europe. And the future of Europe is in our hands. And we decided now to activate social pillar, social projects, social instruments, not only speaking about single market and so on, but what about people, life, quality of life conditions. That is a question. And we need to do something together. But our instruments are in cities, in local communities, in regions, and states level, and at EU level. And we at EU level just proposed European Labour Authority, which can help us manage social disparities and social dumpings at EU level. Now we have proposed last week. Otherwise, without social, Europe will face difficulties. Keep powers back. In UK, was very popular very popular slogan. Keep powers back. And they decided in the referendum, go out. Now nobody knows how can we act in this situation and how can it affect Denmark. Believe me, after 2019, nobody knows which will be consequences. The consequences will be from both sides. It's evidence. And then speaking about social issues, about social disparities, about possibilities to activate social instruments. We need to see more socially oriented Europe. Then people will ask me, okay, Europe in my pocket. I can see Europe in my pocket. Added value. I can see added value. Otherwise, especially those who are poor, more than 50 million people do not eat every day good food. It's our Europe. The statistics is. That is the question.
Another question from here?
Yes. Karsten, you mentioned that health was the individual problem. I don't see how it can be the individual problem when what you eat, what you drink, what you breathe, you can't control it. It's out of the individual hands. You have glyphosate or pesticides in water. You have antibiotics in food. and particles in the air you breathe. This is probably more the politician side. What about glyphosate? I thought, as far as I remember, it was about to be taken away from the EU countries, but some countries apparently did not ratify the ban. Where is EU on that point? I mean, is it not a question of saying, now it has to be withdrawn?
Yes, so let's start with you, Karsten, and Mr. Andriukaitis.
You're right, the environment has a very big influence in this, and in fact we are just now discussing glyphosate in the EU, because these pesticides is very important to reduce or get rid of them. But I can't. I want to mention in connection what the Commissioner said before, that inequality is a very big problem, even in Denmark. You can defer your life expectancy by 10 years within a distance of 8 kilometers. And why? Because that is something about income. That's a question of how you're living and where you're staying and so on. But we have to face these problems. And in fact, it's two problems. It's a social problem and it's an environmental problem. And you're quite right. You can't not always say that it's your own decision. You can try, but there is something we have to do, and the EU has a role there too, and I admit that. They have to have some discussions there.
Mr. Andriukaitis, a word on the EU role here?
Sorry?
A comment on the role of the EU in
on glyphosate. Hmm? I like this question. Really, I like this question. Why? Because this question is not about glyphosate. This question is more, no, it is not about that. First of all, not about that, no. First of all, it is about trust in science. That is the question. Trust in science. If we will accept that European food safety system should be based on sound scientific assessment. It's good or not? It will be okay? Or on public opinion? No. Okay. I like it very much. Because if we will decide that we will based on public opinion, then it will be collapse of food safety system. That's about glyphosate. I spent 3 years in such game, because I'm responsible for my decision finally to prolong to 5 years. What was done? First of all, IARC agency, a WHO agency, on first stage, decided that glyphosate should be treated in their classification as probably carcinogenic. Okay. We ask immediately, assess situation with EFSA, first of all, European Food Safety Authority, all 28 member states bodies, including Denmark. Please ask Denmark assessing body their results about glyphosate. Please ask. You have a chance to look on the website and to see, because they presented opinions that glyphosate unlikely carcinogenic, unlikely teratogenic. It's Danish opinion. Then please ask Sweden or German around. And then, okay, EFSA decided based on all bodies, decided that glyphosate unlikely carcinogenic. It was immediately political game because Greens and NGOs started to play a game that showing, okay, EFSA and all assessing bodies in member states are in hands of industry. It's simple. Today, blaming and shaming is so popular. It's very simple. Okay, then we decided, okay, if we do not accept EFSA decision, let's ask ECHA. ECHA is in Helsinki, European Chemical Agency. We asked ECHA assessment. Answer was unlikely carcinogenic. Okay, then we asked WHO once again. What do you think about? WHO organized a meeting between WHO and Food and Agriculture Organization Committee on Pesticide Residua. They assessed IARC monograph, and their answer was unlikely carcinogenic. Okay, it's not enough. We ask Australia, Zealand, and Canada, and Japan. Around the globe, all assessing bodies tell me the same, except IARC, which was based on different methodology, different classification, and on probability. Their assessment about red meat, also the same. Red meat probably carcinogenic. Please don't use much red meat. Of course, I know about, from scientific point of view, about what they are speaking. Yes, we can discuss those issues. But from a regulatory point of view, answer was clear, unlikely carcinogenic. And then we have only one way to sign application. But it is about pure substance of glyphosate. It's not about concrete pesticide which has different components, because speaking about Roundup, and Monsanto, you know, because some started to call me Mr. Monsanto. I like it. Monster, Monsanto, it's okay for me. I like very much different definitions of my job. But then we encourage member states to draw attention on pesticides who have glyphosate, and we introduce strict rules. Not please don't use in pre-harvest time, please don't use in public spaces, on the ground, in football places, you know? Please don't use not so far from water. It is done. And then you look, you are notifying and assessing concrete pesticides. Look in your pesticide calendar, how many pesticides do you use on the ground in Denmark or in France, and then you can decide on justified ground to use or to not use some concrete pesticide. That's all. And I am very happy that today is saying, yes, scientific assessment was done, precautionary principle was done. We prolong only 5 years because political battles. And now up to Denmark to decide how can you use concrete pesticides on your soil. And assess situation in the water, in the soil, and in the air. Because concrete farmers are responsible on their obligations to use pesticides in proper manner. And of course, integrated pest management is the tool. I like this topic very much.
So we hear, Mr. Commissioner, we have a long list of questions, fortunately, so I'll just hand over the mic.
I will first of all say very good evening to everyone. And my name is Danya. I'm here from Syddansk Universitet, study health and welfare technology. So our role in this would be develop technologies to prevent or treat these diseases or the health problems we will have. So as you said, Mr. Commissioner, before, that we start with children, but children always learn from the adults. So we have to start at the homes and the adults, people around them in the schools, if you want to make a change in the children, first of all. And the second thing is, I think we always forget is the people who is socially not stable and economically not stable. You also mentioned before. Even though in Denmark the ranking is not that bad compared to other countries, the distance between the rich and poor is not that far in Denmark, but we still have, we cannot approach these, and somehow we lose focus on these people. And as long as we lose focus on these people, we don't approach them, we will have an increased problem, and we will always have problem with obesity, with stress, with all the problems we have in the health sector. So always, a lot of studies shows that all the people who have this is COPD or stress or depression. These are people who don't have a lot of education, and the parents don't have education. So, and they have lack of economical situation in the house. So when will we start focusing also, as for Karsten, in Denmark, on these people to make a change? I think these are the people, if we make the change, it will not be hopefully not our children or us who are having these problems, because we have knowledge, and I think is the way to go on. So we have to give them some knowledge and also some tools to play on and make this work.
Yeah, I fully
so
agree.
Is health really a social problem? Is what you're?
I fully agree with you that we need to encourage all actors, member states, local communities, regions, to have target groups and to see how can they help, support, and address those issues related to social determinants. Because less educated people, as you mentioned, all things are known very well. And it means that we should have some programs. How can we develop keeping eyes on multifactorial issues? It's not only medical doctors are responsible. No. It's all together responsible. Social workers, local community activists, local councils, operators, all together are responsible. How can you address binge drinking, for example, being only focusing on one tool? No, you can use complexity. It means that it will be good to have programs which we will address to those targeted groups. But one thing is targeted groups. Another thing is common framework in which we can regulate market. Market is very aggressive against children. Please look at advertising. Please look on pictures. Please look on those packaging. How many colors and so on, which are very attractive to children to use sweet products. We need to discuss together with operators why we are so aggressive against children generally, and of course concretely targeting those more vulnerable groups. We can combine all instruments together. We need to. I like the word holistic approach. We need to have holistic approaches and holistic instruments. Otherwise, we have no chance to act alone. Sorry?
When will we see such a program, such an approach from the EU side?
From EU side?
Yeah, when?
Okay. From EU side, we have programs dedicated to those issues. We have joint actions. We have programs, a health program. We have we provide some money to addressing concrete issues, obesity issues. Such program is in our hands, but it's only must be successful if from both sides, member states level and EU level, and why we presented now status of health of country profile, because we ask member states to discuss together and to say, okay, how can we address together using European Union instruments and national, local, and regional instruments. And it is on our tables. We can do it in more active manner. Now we have so-called steering group on promotion and prevention, which aim is to provide a lot of tools to people and maybe build IT platform that people can use such platform and communicate and to achieve scientific advice, speaking about people. But it's not enough. We can present best practices. We can discuss with member states and say, okay, look, in this country, those issues are workable. Let's do it. Because it is up to all of us to understand that synergy and cooperation, only two ways to be cooperative and to be synergetic using all instruments. And we have in our DGs, in DG Education, DG Employment, DG Research and Development, DG Move, DG Growth, DG Santa. We have some instruments and we try to push countries to cooperate. It was last autumn we signed Tartu Call. Phil Hogan, Tibor Navracsics and me, in such Tartu Call 12 commitments. Now we can ask member states to provide from your side activities, and we can do it only together. Only together.
Thank you. I think there's a question here from concerning something that also has a large part up here.
Hi there. Yeah. Thank you for coming, Mr. Commissioner. My question now, I would like to state that I'm speaking for a very pro-European perspective, and I think that you can basically justify making law whenever there is agreement between member states and the council and in the parliament as such. My question, though, is that when you hear what has also been said in the debate, that basically health policy is a national issue, and in Denmark in general we have this tendency towards EU being smaller on small things and bigger on big things and stuff. This fine line, in your opinion, what is the basis that would justify having a European health policies in the overall picture? And what is your strategy to get guys like Karsten on board stating that, no, health policy is a national matter?
Okay, sorry, I do not understand Dutch word. It says Europe dig, but for me, Europe big. And Europe is big on big and small on small. But the health is a big issue. Why? It is enshrined in Lisbon Treaty. First of all, you know, in Lisbon Treaty is enshrined health in all political sectors. And if European Commission decided to act, European Commission is obliged to assess situation from public health perspectives. Second, we have Article 168 about public health, which use two words, health and public health, and then saying that medical services, healthcare and cure is competence of member states. It means that public health is dedicated to much broader picture, because if we are speaking about single market, can you imagine? All goods are traveling from Lisbon till Copenhagen and till Vilnius. And all operators are operating, selling goods with a lot of sugar, salt, trans fats, and of food safety is part of public health issue. And you have no chance not to be blind only at member states level. It's impossible. It means that we have a lot of obligations, but narrative is very weak. Narrative. Look at Tobacco Product Directive. It was introduced at EU level. And look at a lot of regulatory frameworks related to tobacco-free environment. How many legal acts do we have in our hands? Or speaking about public health threats, infectious diseases, vaccination, and situation. It means that it is European responsibility. And of course, globally, health threats are around the globe. Antimicrobial resistance is a very big challenge for all of us now. And once again, it's a problem. And if you look at our activities to fight against risk factors at, you know, carcinogen directive at working places. It's European Union instrument. We have a lot of instruments. I always try to explain Europe in my pocket. Europe in my pocket. It will be good to know Europe in my pocket. It means if I have health insurance card, it means it's Europe in my pocket. If I'm traveling from one country to another and something was happened, I know that I'm secure. It means speaking about health promotion, prevention, and protection. It's in my pocket to understand. Erasmus Plus is Europe in your pocket, yes? But we can do more, that Europe should be in pockets of all people, and especially those who are in difficult conditions. Health is big, as Europe is big. And we need to do more in public health issues. Yeah, I agree with you. We need to fulfill our obligations to reducing disparities in lifespan assessment, because otherwise we have no chance to address demographic challenges. European Union is shrinking continents, friend. You see perspective till 2040. It will be, now we have 500 millions. And it will be challenging if we will see our picture in different way, being 300 millions. And Africa will be much more productive. And Asia also. We can understand it. Europe should do more addressing demographic challenges. Without public health, stop act. Forget good results. And I'm advocate that we can do more. How cost lack of Europe in public health area? It's cost lives of people. And let's calculate, let's do more.
Well, the question is now that we have these tools, whether the EU should have more tools, and I would actually like to ask you guys about that. Should you have more power in the fields of health? I think this is a good place to do this. So grab your cell phones or iPads and just give us a brief answer to that. Would you want the EU to have more powers in the field of health in terms of the tools regarding the health area? Let's broaden it up in that sense. And in the meanwhile, Karsten, Uno, you had a short remark on this?
Yes, because we have a European innovation network for healthy aging. I think perhaps concerning the last discussion, we should have the same innovation partnerships concerning healthy living. That could be a good idea, because the main purpose of the EU, for me, is that we can cooperate with the differences that we have in Europe, but we can learn of each other and we can give to each other. So cooperation is the main task for me in Europe. And then we can disseminate the best practices. And I think we can learn a lot of that, and I think we can increase the standard of living, and we can decrease the inequalities.
There's a short remark from the person who asked the question before. Is this regarding a follow-up on this?
Yeah,
yes.
But Karsten, your position when listening to what's stated by the Commissioner, I mean, wouldn't it be a fact that there are some tools that can only be of impact and do solid change if there's indeed European law on the health matter?
There's a lot of tools, and we have a lot of research in each country, and that's why we have to have partnerships. And then what concerns the EU level, I think that they have to make the frames for these partnerships and pay a little to it also. And I think that's the main question for EU, because what we are researching in Denmark is not the same as they are researching in Lithuania or something else. So I think that we should give the freedom to each country to do what they think are the best. But it's necessary to cooperate. It's necessary to learn of each other. It's necessary for me to know what's happening in Germany, in France, and Lithuania, and so on, because perhaps we can use it, and perhaps we can be better or do it better in Lithuania. So cooperation.
If I may, only two remarks. Open method of coordination is enshrined in Lisbon Treaty, especially is used in social areas. Open method of coordination. Coordination, cooperation, and solidarity. We need to use those tools. It's a lot of tools. But if you look at two issues, Tobacco Product Directive is European Union instrument. It's instrument, legally binding instrument, directive. But if you look at cross-border health care directive,
yes,
it's also European Union instrument, which is legally binding, because this cross-border health care now is a real tool which helps people who are living in cross-border area to go into cross-border to receive health care and cure and medical services. And in this case, rare diseases, European Reference Network. I will visit tomorrow European Reference Networks in Copenhagen. They are pan-European network. It shows that we have in some areas directives, regulatory tools, and in some areas free choice and cooperation. We have different tools which helps us achieve, so not only black and white, free and we have a lot of different instruments which can help us address those issues. And we need to do it. Lisbon Treaty is the best example of legal framework. Is Lisbon Treaty is best example to move forward. I think we need. First of all, I see that we are denying our obligations to fulfill what is enshrined in Lisbon Treaty. That is the question. And sometimes you see that how can we act, how can I act in area of cross-border healthcare directive if member states are not ready to introduce such directive?
I was the rapporteur of the cross-border healthcare directive, and if we did not, if not, we in Denmark.
Karsten, I've got to let Karen Søgaard have a remark in on here. Sorry. I will hear you
just to
later.
tell that it was necessary that Denmark had influence in that directive, because
thank you.
That was a prior authorization.
Professor Søgaard.
Yeah. Well, it's coming back to this, the foundation that we say is evidence-based for any big initiative that we're going to put on. And from a research or scientific point of view, then it would be so important if this discussion about not just healthy aging, but healthy living could actually be seen in the calls coming out, so that we have a lot of evidence, it is scattered around in different countries, but all the evidence should actually get into work. So we need research projects that are based on the evidence we have, but focus on research in implementation, so that we get these high-value, low-cost treatment of our big challenges, and not just into the newest technology or the genetically based individualized medicine or so on. But we have other low-cost tools that we need to have research calls, so that we can actually share this knowledge within the EU. And I see that the EU could play a major role in putting a focus on these issues.
We have a representative down here who knows all about this, but we'll move on to the next question now and get back to a reaction to this after that.
Hi, my name is Ason. You already talked a little bit about the technological advancement. If you're talking about 25 years in the future, how does the technological advancement in the field of handling stress or working with obesity and so on, how does that affect the future? And how does these two play a role together? Because then you have a lot of data and so on, and that goes around cross borders that you're talking around as well, because that's what's going to develop the future in the end, right? And it's going to work with that in the same way. And just it goes back to that if we like to have more EU, more power in the hill, I think it's more about the visibility and making it more simple for new technologies or new companies who come up to get access to those tools and so on. That was a pointer to what was up in there. Thank you.
Comment?
Yes, I agree with you. We need to do more facilitating possibilities to provide new scientific-based achievements in real life, and to support those developers of new technologies, to support, to introduce their technologies in real life. And you know, now we have a lot of financial instruments. Speaking about Horizon 2020, for example, speaking about Innovative Medicine Initiative, which is dedicated to making more to pharmaceutical issues. But speaking about possibilities to use new technologies in areas such prevention, and as you mentioned, we can address issues related to using EFSI, European Fund for Strategic Investment, and European Investment Bank in facility. And it can help us to discuss those issues. And please look at such advisory hub, which can help you to see in which direction you can achieve financial support, introducing your ideas and your technologies in real life. It will be good to communicate in very concrete way, because it is very important for us to see that EFSI provides real added value in introducing technology. But speaking about technologies as a whole, especially about biotechnologies, I see a lot of controversies in public opinion. If you look at new breeding techniques and possibilities to use technologies in agricultural sector, you see a lot of resistance from societal point of view. Cloning issues, GMOs, and a lot of issues are very controversial in European Union. Some societies are absolutely against. It means that we need to educate, to provide more information, to organize awareness campaigns, to show a real added value, speaking of technologies. Now we propose health technology assessment instrument, which can help us to assess reality and added therapeutic value of technologies. Such proposal is ongoing now at council and parliament level, because we need to help you and to see, because European Union is not so pioneering in implementation of new technologies, and it's a pity. We need to change our ability to accept technologies in very positive manner, and let's do together. But speaking about financial instrument, FC is good financial instrument, additional financial instrument in area of new technologies.
Professor Søgaard and Mr. Petersen, I'm going to prioritize the question from the audience now. I'm sorry, I'll come back to you.
Hello, my name is Kåre, and I'm just a student here at the university. One of the problems is that a lot of EU citizens, Danish citizens, are fighting for healthy possibilities, but are being prevented by their very own government. In Denmark, in the last year or so, there's been a movement to be allowed healthy eating in public institutions, which has gone unnoticed or ignored. At this very university, students are demanding that the cantina should be serving healthy possibilities. Like today we are having fruit, but that's, if you walk down to the less fancy parts, you might not find it the same. So my question is that it's actually a lot of the EU citizens are demanding more healthy options, but are being denied by their own government.
Or maybe by commercial
yes,
issues.
But thanks a lot. It was good time when Netherlands was presidency country 2 years ago in 2016, and Netherlands put on the table idea, a healthy choice, easy choice. Of course, it's a very simple slogan, but how to introduce healthy choice in nutritional policies, doing much more, and guaranteeing access to healthy nutrition. Now you see that organic farming, for example, is promoted step by step because it may be more advanced related to healthy choices, but prices is very high, because if you look at organic farming products at supermarket, prices are higher. How to address issues related to prices? Once again, we need to discuss those issues with Agri Council, with Social Council, with Ecofin Council, and of course with governments, with parliaments, because pricing is very complex one issue, depends on local taxation, a lot of issues. But in my capacity, we decided to help to member states to buy healthiest food, amending public procurement procedures and rules. It was in Malta. It was done now. Now you can look at such public procurement instrument, which provides options to buy healthier food at schools, kindergartens, universities, hospitals, and so on, and are now up to member states to elaborate, and up to local communities to also elaborate, to see conditions and to move in such direction. I am very happy about your question, because nutritional profiles, food issues, food reformulations is very high on my responsibility and my agenda. And we need to do more. We need to reduce food chain and to provide options to have more fresh food, more fruits, more vegetables on socially acceptable prices. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to achieve results, speaking about broader societal, picture. And okay, now it's common agricultural policies on table. Please look, now there are debates about new common agricultural policy in EU. And here was enshrined healthy food issues. Now they are enshrined in common agricultural policy. This will be, and of course also we will ask member states to have their own nutritional policies, which can help all operators to move in such, mission-driving positions. Because not only simple market approach, we need to have instruments in our hands providing more healthy food for people. And I think that now it's good time to discuss those issues in several areas, in common agricultural policy, in social policy, in health policy, and of course in speaking about possibilities to encourage operators to introduce as quick as possible food reformulation, reducing salt, sugar, trans fats, and all elements who create a lot of problems with health.
Thank you. Another question?
Yes, thank you. An interesting afternoon about citizen dialogue, and I'm thinking about the lack of political will in prioritizing systematically prevention and health promotion, because we all know that citizens reclaim better treatment, better health care, but no one reclaims lack of prevention and systematically health promotion. So yes, I agree. We have a lot of knowledge. We know a lot about implementation and guidelines, but we don't see actions. We don't see that research are collaborating with practice. We need a political will. And yes, what would you do?
On EU level or national level? What are we talking about here? EU level. Both. Okay. So,
yes,
Mr. Commissioner,
we need political will. And we decided to establish steering group at DigiCenter level, collecting all instruments and information, and then looking how can we help, assist, and provide instruments and advices to member states and to different actors. And of course also, I am very happy, we need political will at European Council level. Because it's time for European heads of states and governments to speak more about health, more about because otherwise don't speak about effectiveness of European Union. How cost lack of public health activities for Europe? This question is open, and I will provide you economic evidence that it's cost a lot. It's cost a lot. It's health economy. It's health economy. It's not blah blah blah. Not only don't smoke, don't drink, please exercise. It's up to you, friends. It's of course it is not effective. It's like always, it's like long playing music, which is not effective. We need to encourage countries to understand that we are speaking about economy of health, and health economy, and the health sector is a very big one. Please look on agricultural sector. It's very big, producing healthy food, on treatment, healthcare and cure, on research and development, on innovations, on advanced therapies and medicines. The health sector is very big. On your positions to introduce your methods in working places, it's very big. But we need multi-sectorial mentality.
And a long-term thinking, because I'm really with you. We need to realize the cost estimate and how much more efficient it would be to do the prevention compared to do the repair afterwards. And we need to, if we're going to challenge the aging society, we really need to have a long-term perspective.
So if you agree on the lack of political will, what is it that you need? What do you need more of? I mean, will, that's kind of an abstract term. What do you need them to do on the political level?
We need a will to actually use the evidence that's out there.
Doing what?
That we do have. For instance, for muscle and joint health, we do have evidence for some very low-cost, high-value methods.
So you have the Commissioner for Health here. What do you want from him?
Instead, we put the money into doing surgery.
But what would you suggest that the Commissioner for Health in the EU did? Because he's right here next to you. What do you want from him?
Yes.
Exactly. Put out a call.
Who will be against my proposal? Prevention is better than cure. Who is against?
No, nobody's against that.
No one.
I think.
Let's ask our prime ministers, ministers, parliaments, local actors, regional actors. Let's act in this direction.
What is the question you're going to ask them? The precise question. What are you going to ask them?
Do you understand that health economy is a big issue? If you understand, let's do it immediately. Mm-hmm. That's all. Simple political message. We need.
How should they? What do you want them to spend out of the health costs on prevention? How much is it?
It is. First of all, I would like to tell you, we have a lot of scientifically based instruments. This costs zero. Only political will to discuss and vote in Parliament, raising excise duties around Europe on tobacco and alcohol. It will create you additional source of money into your budgets. Who will be against? Only one thing, political will. Liberals, conservatives, social democrats, nationalists. Let's vote. Let's vote.
Well, you called for one, and he's actually
of course,
here.
Discussing possibilities to see very clever steps to moving in such direction, but we need to use it. And then second, how can we use such public money strengthening prevention measures?
I fully
Where's your
agree.
political will?
We have the will, but in a country where we are discussing tax reduction, it is difficult to move money from health care, from cure to prevention. But I would like to do that.
Of course.
So we need action. That's okay.
All right.
Political action.
Well, the audience in here is willing to pay a little more, maybe, or they would want the EU to have more powers in the field of health after the debate today. 42% say.
Okay. Yes, a little.
A little.
Yes,
also, 25% say
yes,
clearly. So quite a few people in here would want the EU to have more powers in the field of health. So I would like for you to spend the last couple of minutes, Mr. Commissioner, just addressing what would be on the top of your list in terms of using this more powers. What would you do as a first thing if you were to have more power in the field of health?
I would be more than happy to say that we have enough of powers at European Union level now, because we have Lisbon Treaty. But we have a lack of understanding about situation. We have a lack of political will to use instruments which are enshrined in Lisbon Treaty. I can't ask you additional powers, no. And then second question, we have also lack of understanding in cooperation, speaking about health. Once again. And of course, maybe it will be good to have some framework conditions speaking about regulation of main risk factors, guidelines. Yes, but believe me, a health topic, if you ask Eurobarometer to ask people what about their thinking, health is number one. Number one between people. But it's never on Financial Times pages or some you know, because it's far from market, from stocks reactions, from from trade. It's evidence. But when you're speaking, how many money we lost if we have a lack of activities in public health. If I may, I will tell you, every year about 165 billion euros. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? 165 billion euros because of number of premature, avoidable, and avoidable deaths, starting with antimicrobial issues, till. It means that we can bring those euros into our life, into real life. It's about health economy. I think we need to do more and change public narrative, because health is not only about diseases. First of all, it's about life conditions, about possibilities to strengthen people's capacities to stay as healthy as possible, as long as possible. That is about health.
Thank you for that, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you, Professor Søgaard. Thank you, Mr. Petersen. Thank you all for all the nice and very competent questions.
Thank you for a brilliant moderation.
Thank you.
Good.
So this completes this citizens dialogue, and thank you again for that. I'm sorry for the few of you who didn't get a chance to ask your questions, but I think we actually reached pretty far on the topics for today. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for today.